Hi friends, I'm Oksana, welcome back. Quite a few of you have reached out to me and asked about a follow-up video for Bloom. So here I'm going to be talking about my experience with using the app over the last few months, and I'm going to cover what I like and what I don't like and tell you how my experience has evolved. So I think number one question that everyone asks, are you still using it on a daily basis? Meaning, is the investment still worth the money? And I think yes, for sure, but my use of the app has evolved from the daily use to probably a weekly or bi-weekly at this point. Some of the practices that I found in the app, like morning and evening journaling, I have taken them out of the app, and there is a reason for that. So the first thing that I found critical to me is the reliance on the app to store my data. I love the freedom, and I love the freedom of choice to be able to take my data and my entries outside of the app, especially if I'm working with a therapist or if I want to reflect on them later in life when I'm not subscribed to the app anymore. I want to have that flexibility. And right now, at least to my knowledge, after digging in the app, it doesn't look like Bloom allows you to export your entries. Maybe they will roll out this feature in the future, but right now you're kind of locked to using the app and storing the entries in there. So I did not like that, so I took the daily journaling out and I use Remarkable to do that so I can store all my entries in digital and PDF format. The second reflection is about structure and navigation. I think Bloom has gone through this mini evolution and iteration of how it structured its own content, and at some point early in the day they were releasing new upgrades and navigation stopped making any sense. And it was actually really frustrating because there were a lot of sections, a lot of segments that were covering different topics, and I was not sure or clear how to navigate all of that. So right now they seem to be in a good place with their categorization. So when you log in into the app, you actually have big buckets or big themes for what you could potentially work on. And I think that makes navigation a lot easier. So reflection number 3, I would definitely recommend establishing a personal plan or goal for working with Bloom. What is it that you're trying to achieve? And I would also recommend staying on track and staying focused on one topic for some specified period of time that you determine that is suitable for you. My problem was that I started to squirrel off into different directions, different topics, because I'm genuinely curious, and I didn't find it helpful. I'm picking up all these things, and if you pick too many of them, it seems like, oh my God, I feel a little bit overwhelmed. I need to fix myself in all these areas, and something is not working. And at one point, I just had to say, stop. Take a pause, take a break from the app, because I was doing a lot of those pulls. And I was also doing those pulls when I was not feeling the greatest. So there was clearly something that I needed to work on. I did not define that goal for myself. I did not stay focused, and I think it made it a little bit more difficult for me to use the app effectively because of that. And reflection number 4, I don't think Bloom ultimately replaces therapy, because you are never able to step outside of your own frame of reference to work on certain things. And I did not realize it until I spoke with a therapist recently. If you heard in one of my videos, I have been trying to find a good therapist for a number of years. And I recently finally found one. So hearing her work with me definitely pointed to the fact that whatever I do within Bloom, it's of course helpful, but there's always limitations to how far it can go. The criticality of having someone outside of your frame of reference is super important, because even though you're working with the cognitive behavioral therapy exercises, you're working from your own perspective. And we tend to go in loops, and sometimes we just don't see things that are obvious, or we don't discover those revelations that another person can help us see. That distancing effect, right, when we need to step so far away from our own problems to have that fresh eye perspective, is something that I don't think is achievable through Bloom. It doesn't mean that the app is not delivering the value. It just means that at some point or another, we all will run into some form of a wall or a plateau where we will need other people's fresh eye perspective to help us step out of that personal frame of reference that prevents us from seeing the root cause of an issue or maybe the next step forward. And for me, I think I would say that Bloom is excellent for initial discovery, for maintenance of things, for continuation of the journey. In conclusion, I think Bloom is definitely worth the investment. I think it's an excellent tool. I do believe that it delivers a lot of value in terms of a supplemental therapy. I also think if you cannot afford the therapist or if your insurance plan does not cover it, it's definitely a way forward. I think Bloom helps us see and ask ourselves questions that are ultimately leading questions on the same path if you were working with a therapist. So I would give it still thumbs up. A couple things that I mentioned I think is something to consider as you're thinking about getting into the world of Bloom. But I do believe it's an effective way to help ourselves thrive in this life. If you have tried Bloom and you liked something that I did not mention, please let me know what it is. I would love to hear from you. If you're thinking about joining Bloom community, I encourage you to give it a shot and let me know what you think. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.